Okay, welcome to this meeting of the decision session for the Executive Member for Finance and Performance. We have a stellar cast today. I'm joined by my colleague, the Executive Member for Housing and Safer Neighbourhoods, and my colleague, the Executive Member for Economy and Strategic Planning, for the first two items that we have on the agenda. So, without any ado, I should take us through the first item on the agenda is declarations of interest. Does anybody have any interest to declare?
No.
Item 2 is to approve the minutes of the decision session held on the 13th of December. Myself and Councillor Craighill were both there, and I think I'm happy to accept those as a correct record. Item 3, public participation. We have no members of the public registered to speak today, so we will go straight to item 4, which is the financial inclusion and welfare benefits update. I'll hand over to Polly.
Thank you, Chair. The report presents to the joint portfolio holders a number of financial inclusion decisions. All of these proposals contribute to our comprehensive approach in York to support our residents in financial difficulty, and importantly work on medium-term activities to have longer term outcomes and benefits rather than short-term solutions with short-term effects. So those proposals, as laid down in paragraph 1, are to consider and approve the renewed service level agreement with the Welfare Benefits Unit for the next 3 financial years. The service level agreement is contained in the first Annex A, with no change to the amount or scope within that particular agreement. The second decision is it's not a decision, it's to note the update on the Financial Inclusion Steering Group 22-23 grant scheme, and the decisions relating to the awards of that grant scheme will be brought to the next meeting in March, and the current process is underway at the current time. The third one is to consider and approve the funding of a community involvement officer to deliver the actions relating to food poverty priorities in the city, including priorities set down in the Right to Food motion approved at full council in October 2021, and the key responsibilities of that officer are outlined in paragraph 14. To approve, the fourth item is to approve a slight amendment to the executive decision made on 30th of September 2021 for digital inclusion funding for a year, to extend that funding for 18 months, but at no extra cost. So it's just a period of that decision to change. The funding is to be used for a project coordinator, and Explore York felt that it was best provided part-time over 18 months. And as I say, that's a minor adjustment. So the recommendations relating to those 4 areas are summarised in paragraph 2, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I'll hand over to Councillor Craighill.
Thank you, Chair. I don't really have any particular questions, just a few comments really on the paper. I do welcome the proposals in this paper. The Welfare Benefit Unit has done crucial work for the city for many years, supporting our network of benefits advisors across the council and city partners and their specialist knowledge and expertise. And this really enables those advisors to help some of our most vulnerable residents to maximise their access to the funds they're entitled to. So very happy to support that extension of their SLA for 3 years. I think it's also very helpful to note the progress of the Financial Inclusion Grant Scheme, which has so far supported so many important projects. And this isn't only giving people advice, which is absolutely crucial, but also projects that build up skills and confidence and help people back into employment or into better paid jobs. And also clearly very happy to extend the funding for the Digital York Coordinator as requested by York Explore to cover a longer period of time. I just particularly wanted to welcome the proposed funding for the new Community Involvement Officer post to focus on developing the city's response to food poverty. The pressure on many people to choose between paying fuel bills, eating, or other basics is probably almost certainly going to get more acute in the coming months. And this new post will be able to address the actions in the Right to Food motion passed by Council, but also to respond to the need to focus on this area, which had already been identified by all the partner organisations that the Council works with. I do hope that a significant part of this work will be able to focus on working with and strengthening our citywide food networks. The York Food Poverty Alliance, which became a member of the Financial Inclusion Steering Group quite a while back last year, already brings together a truly amazing network of grassroots food groups and volunteers, many of whom combine providing free or pay-as-you-feel food to anyone who needs it, with the repurposing of in-date leftover supermarket food that would otherwise go to waste. And they also provide, I think it's really important, they also provide an informal, easily accessible social support and an easy way in to more formal parts of our support networks. And they're run by volunteers who have very little spare capacity to scale up what they're doing. So hopefully this post can help to join up the dots between informal and more formal networks and really help to scale up the operation to meet growing needs, repurposing more waste food, supermarket food, but also providing more food to people who are in immediate need. And also, I think, I had this mentioned to me the other day, whilst we have to meet these immediate needs, it is also that part of it that helps people back into independence and into improving their own income is also so important. So I really do welcome that post. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Claggill's covered most points. I think it's one of those areas, it's just a relatively small amount of council spend, but really has so much significant impact on people in the cities and some of the most vulnerable residents we have in the city. I think the welfare benefits unit, it's not mentioned so much in this report, but it's mentioned in a lot of reports. The actual, I see Nick is here as well as our asset management, the return on investment, as we might say to it, if we were talking about some of our property, the money that comes back into the city as a result of the work that the welfare benefits unit does is absolutely significant, which is crucial in terms of helping those individuals that benefit from it personally, but also helping the wider communities that benefit from some of that funding that comes back in. So really happy to continue to support those and happy to support the rest of the recommendations. So I would agree, if we're both content, I'm happy to read the recommendations on page 7, paragraph 2. Are you leading us, Councillor Claggall? You're welcome to stay, however.
I said before, I'm sure it's all very interesting, but it's not my bit. So.
Okay, so then at that point, we'll move on to item 5, which is the Omicron business support grants. And back to you, Polly, is it?
David's going to take you through this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. This paper presents the COVID Additional Relief Fund, acronym CARF, and the third allocation of the Additional Restrictions Grant, the ARG, to ratify the Office decisions of the 21st of January and 2nd of February, respectively. It also presents the Omicron Hospitality and Leisure Scheme that was approved at exec on the 13th of January. Just in terms of the background to these schemes, the government announced on the 21st of December that they were providing additional business support linked directly to the Omicron variant of COVID. In terms of the funding, paragraph 4 sets out there, we received some £4.2 million on the hospitality and leisure. We got some £300,000 on the third payment of the ARG. There was a Cultural Recovery Fund announcement, and that's been dealt directly with by Arts Council England, so organisations need to apply directly to them. We're not involved in that process. CARF, which is a slightly different scheme. CARF, unlike the other grants that we've had over the last 2 years, is actually a relief on business rates as opposed to a physical grant. And we received some £4.8 million of funding for the CARF scheme. So paragraph 6, the Omicron Hospitality and Leisure Scheme, we're well advanced now in actually paying that out. We're about 50% of the way through that. We've spent over 2 million, or awarded over £2 million of the grants, and hope to have that finished in the next few weeks. And that's a direct grant to businesses, and the criteria is prescribed by central government. So we just adopted that. Table A just gives you an indication there of the amounts of grant that each business is getting, and that's based directly on their rateable value. The third tranche of the additional restrictions grant, that's picked up at paragraph 11. I've set out the guidance at Annex B and the scheme at Annex C, but in reality, it's a relatively small sum of money compared with what we've had in the past. The businesses that need to, or the government are recommending should benefit from it, again, are set out there at paragraph 11. So we're talking about travel, personal care, tourism, etc. And again, unlike some of the other ARG schemes, this is a direct grant to business, so you cannot use it for anything other than paying directly to business as a financial support. In line with the OHLG scheme, the deadline for paying these payments is 31st of March, so we need to spend all the money by the 31st of March. Otherwise, of course, the government will take it back from us. The CARF scheme is set out at paragraph 17. As I said, the purpose of this fund really is a relief to businesses, and it's aimed at businesses that's been affected by the COVID pandemic but haven't to date received any support from government. So these businesses we able to identify from our business rate base. So supply industries and businesses like that are included in the ideal of the CARF scheme and where the relief should be applied. Unlike the other two schemes, the deadline for this is September, so we have to reply the relief by September. So we'll basically, as we've done with all these schemes, we are going to award these to businesses. So we are writing to all the businesses who we believe will qualify, to let them know that they've qualified, let them know how much they're entitled to receive, and they will need to come back to us if they don't meet the criteria, which really is about the fact that they don't breach the subsidy rules and they are entitled to it. As with all the schemes in this report, we do the normal fraud checks. We use Spotlight, we use Experian, and we make sure that we pay the correct businesses the correct amount of money. So this paper, in terms of the recommendations, it's just really asking you to note the adoption of the Omicron Hospitality and Leisure Grant, and that's, as I said, set out at Annex A. To ratify the officer decision of the 2nd of February in delivering the new Omicron ARG scheme at paragraph 11 to 14 and Annex B and C, and to ratify the officer decision of the 21st of January in delivering the new CARF scheme, again set out at paragraph 16 to 20 and Annex D and E. And finally, at paragraph 2D is to approve delegation of any future changes resulting from the government guidance in relation to all the schemes in this paper to the Chief Financial Officer, Director of Economy in Place and Director of Customer Communities. We add that in because these schemes do tend to get tweaked as we go along. They're not tweaked massively, but we don't have time to do anything usually to get them all out unless we have that delegation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Eyre. The system has become very complex, and I would like to pay tribute to officers who've been working very hard to ensure that these grants are processed as promptly as possible, because the priority is to ensure that jobs are saved in the city and that we ensure that all the resources provided by government get to where they need to. Having a reunited economic development team has been helpful to give advice to the many small businesses and micro businesses that are eligible for differing grants, and it is quite perplexing because there's been ministerial announcement for the last 19 months which has been made, and then government have come along with the guidelines. So it is Keynesian economics at pace, and I recognise the rapid response that's had to be made, and the collation of information of businesses that are still in need of support. And we have throughout recommended that companies or individuals who feel that they may not be eligible should contact the economic growth at york.gov.uk as a single point of contact. And we have utilised that information to lobby for support. I'd like to also thank partners such as the Federation of Small Businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, the Business Improvement District, the various traders associations across the city, the Retail Forum, which is now transforming itself into the High Street Forum, and many other groups that have managed to get the message across to the thousands of businesses that benefit from these schemes. We have, as I say, the council has lobbied throughout where we've had information I have written to the Chancellor on many occasions, and that's been working with other councils who have done similar. So therefore, I think the key actually is in paragraph 11, where the wide range of businesses who have felt that they missed out have been explicitly included, and I'm glad to see those because there's a wide range of there. The hospitality industry has been recognised, but equally there are other sectors who feel that, well, they've been impacted and sometimes they feel that they haven't got such a strong voice, but we're recognising that hair, beauty, wedding related businesses, English language schools, which for the City of York is an important sector, and a wide range of other aspects of travel agents and tour operators who've been affected for a very long time, that they are included. And there are many that I haven't mentioned, but will be included in this. And I think the principle is, please come forward. We want to make sure that all the resource is allocated, that we don't send anything back to government that could have been sent to York businesses, but that does rely on them coming forward. So it is important that we get the message out, use the networks that we have, and ensure that York businesses benefit. So I'm happy to support this.
Thank you. And just echoing, I think Councillor Waller has covered the work that's been done from an economic point of view, and it's great to know that you and the Chancellor are now pen pals. And I'm sure of those many letters you've sent, you'll have had just as many back from him as well, from his office in terms of that. I think when you look at sort of the top of page 36 and paragraph 3, the speed with which the money is announced and then has to come out, it's sort of like, for those of us of a certain age, a really complicated version of Brewster's Millions in terms of getting that through, and the penalties in terms of what happens if we don't meet that. But it is so vital and so important to those people who receive it, a little bit like we mentioned on the previous item. It can seem small amounts, 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, but for those people, it's really important to make sure that they're able to survive, they're able to continue and thrive, and for the employment opportunities that they provide. It really is so important, I think. And from my point of view, just to echo what Councillor Waller said, thanks to the staff who have been operating in ever-changing, ever-shifting landscapes and working really hard in really difficult circumstances and at an incredible pace. And I think it's testament to your staff, the work that's been done, and the speed with which that payment's been able to get out. So I think our thanks always to those as well. So with that, I'm happy to agree the recommendations on page 35, paragraph 2. Thank you. Again, Councillor Waller, you're more than happy to stay for item 6, but you equally it won't take offence if you do leave. Okay, so with that, we'll go to item 6, which is the application for community right to bid under the Localism Act.
Thank you. This report presents an application to renew the assets of community value listing of Holgate allotments. The allotments were previously listed on the 29th of June 2015, and under section 87 paragraph 3 of the Localism Act 2011, the property must be removed from the ACV list after 5 years. So this application is a request to re-add the site onto the council's AVC list. Legal services have confirmed that the application is valid and that Holgate Allotments Association are a qualifying organisation. No objections have been received to the proposed listing and has received support from York Allotments CIO and a number of other organisations, including the head teacher of St Paul's C of E Primary School. There are no other updates to the contents of the report. And on that basis, the recommendation is to relist Holgate Allotments as an ACV.
Thank you. I will be incredibly brief. I'm just very much notice it's a technical issue that we have to renew these every so often. So really just welcome that and happy to accept the recommendations as written. Thank you. With that, I have no urgent business. So at that point, I'm happy to declare the meeting closed.